Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. Previews the 2021 World Figure Skating Championships with Meagan Duhamel. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, I'm Meagan. I'm so excited to see you again. I feel like it's been forever.
Yeah, I love your wall behind you. Is that your house?
Thank you so much. It is indeed.
Oh, it's so fancy.
Is that
my
yours?
Basement.
It looks lovely also, yes.
Yes, we've seen your basement and your workout, but not the couch area. So.
I know, you see the wall that's over here on this side. And then I have the couch, and then I have a staircase in the laundry room.
All right, okay. So we're going to be previewing all things going on in the 2021 World Figure Skating Championships. If you're new here, please subscribe below, smash that like button. And Meagan, I feel like we haven't had skating all season, and I feel like you are as enthusiastic about skating as we are. What's making you the most curious about Worlds?
A lot. I wonder which perhaps top skater may not even make it to the short program because of a positive COVID test, or because their coach or somebody on their team has a positive COVID test. So I do kind of wonder if we're going to see that. I do know that the ISU held the Speed Skating World Championships and they had no positive tests. So they did a really good job, the speed skating community, with that. So we know it's possible if all the figure skaters and coaches and staff followed protocol and were respectful of each other. But I do, part of me wonders which top skater isn't even going to make the short because of it. And I hope I'm proven wrong and all of them do.
I hope that everyone does make it, but I do have those same worries. And then I'm trying to calculate it in my head. I'm like, well, the Russians were just in Novogorsk together and they were just here, but they've all had it already. But, the community, herd immunity maybe it only lasts 3 months. And then you're wondering about, did they get the vaccine? Because many, certain countries are told not to get the vaccine. And there are so many variables that we really don't know. How do you feel about Bruno going? I mean, you have the baby. So you were just telling us before we got on that you're quarantining with your parents. So
yeah, well, I have just finished my 3rd COVID test today. And tomorrow I'll get today's results. And should they be negative, I'm going to be on the road to my parents' house for 3 weeks so that I don't necessarily need to quarantine, because Bruno coming home will need to quarantine. And I just we have dogs that need walks. We have a baby. I don't want the baby to sit in the house for 2 weeks when she doesn't need to. So we'll go to my parents up in Northern Ontario and self-isolate, I guess, because you can't really do anything anyways. Everything's closed. In Canada there's still a lot of restrictions on things. So I'm going to go to my parents so that I'm not stuck within the walls of my house. But I mean, that's Bruno's job, and that's what, is part of the job. And he has 2 pair teams at the competition. So that's, just the way it is. And I know that he'll follow protocol. It's just scary when you don't, you see a lot of pictures and a lot of videos coming up where there's already people entering the bubble of the World Championships and they're not following protocol.
I did see that airplane. Was a cringe.
It's not that hard to just put your mask over your nose. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
I've skated with a mask. I've done triples with a mask. With a hockey player, I've done twists in a mask. Yes, it's not comfortable, but it is doable. And nobody's asking them to skate in a mask. You're just asked to walk around in a mask. And regardless if some athletes, coaches, and federation have their vaccine already, regardless if they've already had COVID and they feel like they can't spread it to anybody else, it's just a simple respect for the skating community and for others that are there. We don't know who is coming home to a high-risk family. We don't know which individuals are high risk. And I just think it's just a general respect for the community around the skating world, for everybody who's participating in Worlds, to follow protocol.
So I broke my front teeth when I was 11. So even though it makes 0 sense, having the mask in front somehow feels like a protective barrier when I'm going to go do something harder in skating. That somehow I'm like, oh, it's like a mouth guard. It's going to make it all better. It's like a security blanket. So I think how strange is it going to be to skate without a mask on? But I noticed at the rink that even some coaches that can never seem to put the mask over the nose. Yes, they are Russian. Yes, I'm I do not understand.
But why is it? What is it with people who can't just wear a mask? In Japan, in China, in Korea, in these Asian countries, wearing a mask when you go out to the movies and out shopping is just normal. They don't even think about it. If they have a tickle in their throat, they'll wear a mask because they just want to protect people.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a general courtesy in these countries. And then, you know, in some countries, and we see it even in Canada with, and I'm sure as you guys do in the States, people that just don't want to. And it's just not that difficult.
But in Canada, they check if you're quarantining. You guys are very vigilant and diligent about all of this stuff.
And most places you're not allowed in without a mask. Like, you can't even go in to pick up a coffee or go in for groceries or anything unless you're wearing a mask.
So it does spread like incredibly rapidly. I can tell from personal experience because my family was like so diligent about this for months. And we had, you know, my nephew's other grandparents came back from Florida. They were on an airplane. Of course, my nephew wound up seeing them over the holidays, and like, boom. And in like textbook.
Everybody's got it.
Yes. So So I do worry about the skaters going, but
I do as well.
Hopefully.
I mean, Meagan, I'm curious because when you were competing, you were always someone I admired the most for their training habits and their like commitment to the sport. How do you think you would have done in a season like this where there was so much remote sort of coaching that was happening, choreography that was happening remotely, a lack of competitions, maybe an online competition? How do you think you personally would have done with that?
I've thought about this a lot. And like, sometimes I think I would have learned all the quads. And then sometimes I think I would have taken a 2-month vacation because I wasn't in a hurry. But I think the reality, I may have learned one more quad in reality, or tried to. Maybe not done, but tried. I think something that Eric and I would have been doing is sending weekly videos to judges and to officials and to tech specialists and just asking them for feedback. And it would be something that also held us accountable because we knew we needed to get our costume on every week, do a 6-minute warm up and send a video. I think that's definitely something we would have done if we were in this position, especially in Canada where there was like literally no competitions, and doing simulations. Well, that would have been a simulation, but creating simulations, trying to learn new skills, trying to, you know, increase our skating skills, movement classes, dance classes, all these things. Like, I feel like we should see every skater that hasn't competed for a long time show up with immense amounts of improvement. Because like, I feel like I probably would have done 3 hours of stretch classes every day if I was still skating, because that was one of the things that I needed to work on. I would have just done more of that. And that's something that you can do at home. So, I mean, that's what I would be looking for. Of course, there's some skaters that have been competing throughout the season, and then we have some that we really haven't seen too much of. And I think if I was, you know, one of the ones that we hadn't seen too much of, I hope that when I showed up at this next competition, that there would be a lot of like, wow, improvements. Because what else was there to work on but all these things? There was not like another competition to get a short program ready for. There was, you know, like there was no rush. So you could have spent time really improving on a lot of skills, and every skater is different on what needs to be improved.
So for those that have been at home, sorry, Dave, that have been doing these sorts of simulations or trying their best to sort of recreate a competitive environment, what are the elements that you think could really throw someone now that they're officially in a competitive like environment? I'm curious, like, because I think it makes total sense. Okay, we're going to do the 6-minute warm up. We're going to try to do this, this program in full. But inevitably, there must be a different energy when you're actually in it. What would that have been for you, do you think?
Yeah, like Eric and I, we even in normal times, we always wear our costumes. Usually every 2 weeks, we would wear our costumes, do a 6-minute warm up and do a program. And sometimes our coaches organized it, and sometimes we organized it ourselves because we knew it was important. But when we got to competitions, things that would throw us off. For example, this happened many times that Sui and Han wouldn't compete all season long. And then they would show up at 4 continents and worlds and just be spectacular in practice. And that would throw us off because it was like, whoa, we were not expecting that. And I don't know why we didn't expect it because they always did that, but we would be very thrown off by that. The way that the ISU brings you on the ice for your 6-minute warm-up. You stand at center ice. If there's going to be those spotlights, they play the music. That's something that could throw you off. And pacing backstage between the 6-minute warm-up and your skate. It's not the same as, you know, sitting on the bench at your practice rink waiting for your turn to do your simulation. But if you've done a lot of simulations and you have the mileage on your programs, there's no reason why you shouldn't show up at this competition as ready as you normally would be for a world championships. Because all the skaters competing at the world championships, their coaches have access to the federation officials and judges. So they could have been getting feedback for a year now.
Well, I find it amazing. You were talking about what you would have done if had there been, and had you had this time, and I can't help but think, but that's what you do anyway, in terms of like your preparation, trying to address everything. What I have noticed is that we're, a year, and what we have seen from the skaters is that everyone is in almost the exact same spot they were in a year ago, except for a few cases. But if you look at it, last year, the word was that Jason Brown was just getting his quads into the program to maybe do with the world championships, and we haven't seen it all year, which has been the story of his career, but we were hearing like it was legitimately in the program. Mm-hmm. And then we saw him do a quad sow, and it was on Instagram, and it was maybe a little under, and I thought, he had a whole year, and we are almost finally putting it back in the same exact spot they've been going between the toe and the sow and the toe and the sow, and what is he going to do, and is it in the program? And I thought that he's in the exact same spot. And then you look at other skaters, Roman Sadovsky wasn't chosen last year. This year needed more consistency. At the end of the day, didn't get there. I think so many other skaters, it's just amazing. I think that quarantine brings out, I think people that are going to be more impacted by distractions are more impacted by quarantine, and the people that try to find solutions and try to move ahead are doing that more than ever. It's just a weird thing. I expect Sui and Han to come and be prepared for worlds like we never missed a beat.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny because sometimes I have these conversations with Bruno, and I'm like, about maybe a particular skater, like nobody in particular, because I'll say it sometimes about many different skaters, just like, they look the same. It's been 3 years and nothing has improved. Why has nothing improved? And because for me as a skater, as a human being, it was always like constant evolution and improvement. I never wanted to show up the next season the same as the season before. Whether it was my hair or the color of my skates or my lifts or my twist or my throws, like I always wanted to make sure there was significant things that had improved. But Bruno always like kind of has to remind me that maybe this is as good as some people's potential is. Maybe they just have hit their potential and they're just hoping to almost sustain that. And I think that that's something like throughout my own like frustration of like, why has this person not improved? Why are they not showing that? Maybe they're just not capable of more. Like, I think that we would all love for Jason Brown to have all the quads. Like, wouldn't we all love for him to have quads and to be able to win every competition he enters with his amazing program and his amazing skating? And I'm sure he wishes that too.
Yeah.
But maybe, his potential with jumps is what it is right now. And, there's only so much that coaches or skaters can do once you reach what you can do. I'm not saying that is his potential. I'm just using him as an example because you had spoke about him.
Yeah. No, I think we saw his quads in the fall, and then, things happened during the season and quarantines and this and that, and then he builds back up. It's interesting how this year has kind of played out. It wasn't a slight against him. I think for a team like
Well, it's also with Sui and Han. It's like every year they're so great, but they still can't do their side-by-side triple sow. Yes. It's been 11 years I competed against them, and it was still the same problem. Why didn't it improve? Maybe they literally just don't have the ability to get that any better. So they make other things better instead. Like, it's so hard to know when you're not in the skater's body.
Yeah, I would say for Jason, he made the rest of his program even better, than he did from last year to this year. And it's very true. So a team like Alexa and Brandon, I'm curious how you feel about this. Obviously, they both had different partnerships. I have a bunch of videos I'm going to upload of you with old partners and Eric with old partners at Canadian Nationals. And I'm so curious how you feel about this, because your first year with a new partner, obviously you have experience competing, but you don't have experience competing together. Do they go into this world with no expectations? Do they kind of know where they fit in the back of their minds? What do you feel more like climbers again? Do you have that like gritty, aggressive energy? What kind of a state are you usually in at this point for a team like that?
Well, they've competed a few times, and they've competed pretty consistently the times that we've seen. We saw them at the virtual, whatever that was called, the virtual series in the late summer and fall. We saw them at Skate America, and we saw them at Nationals, and they were good every time. So I think that whatever they're doing in training is creating mileage that's allowing them to compete and be consistent right away. I mean, I would assume that they're going into this competition having no idea where they're going to rank, because they don't have the scores from the international judges. They don't know where the international judges are going to view them and slot them. And they're also going to skate so early in the short program. So I think that if I were them, I would be a little bit like relaxed and like, I'm just going to do my best and see where everything falls, because you have no idea and you don't have the pressure from past experiences. But that being said, I do think that they have a lot of potential, and what we've seen from them has been really, really great. And I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and it's to be expected, because you took the best pair girl in the States or one of the best, and you put her with the best or one of the best pair boys. So of course it's going to form into, it should, not of course, but it should form into a really strong pair team. So I think that they've probably been doing a lot of simulations and training. They've been, sending in the videos to officials for feedback, and that's been allowing them to show up at the few competitions that they've done very consistent.
What do you make about Kane and Leduc? They've had kind of a rocky last year or so. They've, made improvements. They've been working obviously a lot with Nina Mosier over Zoom. What do you, they didn't quite get it done at nationals, but then they did make it, to the World Championships as alternates. How prepared do you think an alternate would be in that situation, getting the call where you're not quite sure if you're going to go, and then,
Side note, I'm drinking this cream soda sparkling water, and it is so good.
Okay.
I know that brand.
They have like
it's really good.
Sparkling water, cream soda sparkling water, orange crush sparkle water.
Okay.
It's pretty spectacular. So I'm just like throwing
that in.
What
brand is it? Let me look.
No, it's President's Choice. I don't think you get that in the States.
Oh, no, we do. We do in the Midwest for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
Amazon might have it. So
it's amazing. I just discovered it and I love it. I don't drink soda, but this sparkling water is really good. From my experience with American skaters, the alternates train very seriously. They take their alternate position extremely seriously. So I would imagine that Kane and Leduc left US Nationals and continued training as if they were on the world team, because that's what I've seen from US skaters in the past. So, and I'm also pretty certain that they were told they were going before the rest of us found out that they were going. So I think that they've had a little bit of time to prepare for that. I think a lot of their problems, especially with their throw jumps and sometimes with their under rotations, are a mental block, because I've seen her land very nice throws. I think that it's, just become in her head about this throw triplets. And sometimes when I would imagine there are some calls where her jumps are so tight, where she really views that they were clean, and then the technical panel has downgraded them or under rotated them. And then that plays with your mental game as well, because she's like, oh, well, I really don't think I did. So I think a lot of their issues really are just mental blocks. And I think that that's workable to kind of get out of that. And I would expect them, because they have another American pair team with them, to maybe not feel so much pressure at these world championships, knowing that there's another strong team with them and they're not alone, like carrying the weight of qualifying spots for the Olympics. And because of that, I would guess that they're probably going to have some pretty strong performances.
I do remember, I wanted to ask you about the early warm-up thing, because we hear about this a lot, especially with teams that are new and they're always concerned about how early they're going to go. An event like the Worlds, for Alexa and Brandon to go early, is it that big of a disadvantage, or did the judges maybe get more excited to see you skate after you see everyone at a certain level? Then you see someone at a higher level, they might look amazing, or are the marks still held down? What's your take on that?
I think that overall, if they were to skate a perfect short and they skate third, their marks would probably be 1 to 2 points less than they would be if they were skating in the final group or the second last group. I think that at the end of the day, it's not always that big of a deal. I remember my first Worlds with Eric in 2011. It was Tatiana and Max's first Worlds, and Eric and I skated second. And then in the second warm-up group was Tatiana and Max. And I think they won or came second in the short. Their score from the second warm-up group lasted through 5 or 6 warm-up groups. So if you're really great, I don't think the marks will be held back. And if you have really great practices that the judges watch, I don't think the marks will be held back.
I think it's a mindset too. I feel like if you're worried about being in the early group, you're going to make more mistakes, or you're going to be tighter, or it's just going to.
It's a distraction.
Yeah.
I remember in Sochi when we were doing our draw for the long program, I put my hand in the bag and I was like, don't skate after a Russian, don't skate after a Russian, don't skate after a Russian. And we skated after a Russian, and it served as a distraction.
Well, it didn't really bother you in the long program.
No, in Sochi.
Oh, in Sochi.
Yeah,
Okay.
in 2014.
Okay.
No, I had a better like mental preparation for that.
Well, speaking of the Russians, we have seen them so much this season, and we've seen three teams really bounce. I know at one point in time there was a fourth team that snuck in during nationals, but it's really been the three teams that have kind of been leading the pack this year. Mishina and Galliamov, Boikova and Koslovskii, Tarasova and Morozov. How do you kind of rank them? Who do you kind of like for the World Championships? I did read that you think at one point you said that you thought that they could maybe even sweep. You know, where do you kind of rank them against each other?
Well, I think that those three teams enter the competition as the top three teams because they're really the only teams that have had real mileage this season. They've competed in team events. They've competed with audiences. They've competed without audiences. They've done it all. So, and they've competed multiple times, not just twice. So, you know, they are the ones that have the most mileage. So of course I would expect those three teams to be top contenders. I do like each of those three teams. I think I'm going to pronounce their names wrong, but Boikova and
Koslovskii,
yeah. And Mishina and
Galliamov, my favorite.
I always want to say Dmitriev, and I know it's not Dmitriev. I find both those teams are like a breath of fresh air. They have this like joyful energy and this infectious energy that we haven't seen from Russian pair skating in a while. Like they kind of like steer away from the super serious classical style. And I really like their energy. I'm really drawn to them in a performance. They perform so well. I don't know if it's like that Moscovina touch or what it is, but I find myself really engaged in their performance. They draw me in and I love that. But I also think that this year we're seeing Tarasova and Morozov finally with a great free skate program, like piece of choreography and music. So that's been their biggest problem over all these years was the lack of a good free skate. So I think should they deliver in the short and the free skate, the judges are going to be ready to reward them. They've been ready to reward them for years when they haven't had great programs. So now that they have a great program, imagine like the scores that they can receive, which I think they would deserve with their superior skating skills and technical elements. But of course they need to deliver to get those scores. But no, I wouldn't be surprised to see them sweep the podium. Yes, I still think Sui and Han are going to show up and be very good, but these three teams, like there's not much of a gap between the Russians and Sui and Han anymore. Sui and Han won't be able to afford a mistake going against these three. So it's going to be really exciting. I think any one of those three Russians can win, but right now, I think that like the way that I see the competition, I would be betting on Tarasova and Morozov to get the world title this year.
I do kind of favor Mishina and Galliamov just a little bit over Boikova and Koslovskii because they seem to have a little bit of a fresh energy, especially with their free skate. They just look like they're peaking, you know, and the other team is doing, you know, Boikova and Koslovskii is the same free that we saw last year.
Yeah, I feel like they've outgrown it just a little bit.
Yeah.
I wish that they kind of had something fresher, but Boikova and Koslovskii now, they have added the triple sow Euler triple sow into their free skate, which Mishina and Galliamov have been doing. So they've upped the ante, but that's still a new element for them. That's, you know, they tried it at the last event that they did in Russia and missed it. So that's big points if they do it, but it's also going to be detrimental to them if they don't do it.
What do you think? Was like, where can these teams gain and lose points against Sui and Han? You said that there's not a big difference. And I was thinking about the components. I think Sui and Han, you would imagine, are going to do a gorgeous free skate and get the components there, but they're also, it's going to be their first time out. So maybe they're not skating full out because they haven't competed. It's
and levels
for them, right? Levels. You look at the other teams that have competed, they have to feel more primed and more confident. And they're probably skating their programs a little bit bigger and a little bit comfortably.
I also think that Tarasova and Morozov's program components they're always on par with Sui and Han, except for last season where we saw like Tarasova and Morozov kind of like leave the level of skating that they were once at, and now they've picked it back up. Their components are usually on par. Like them and Sui and Han were almost tied for the short program at the Olympics in Pyeongchang with 81 points. So I don't think there'll be a big difference in program components between those two teams. And we saw the way that the international judges were scoring Boikova and Koslovskii last season. It doesn't feel like it was last season, but last season, you know, their scores were really getting very close to Sui and Han when Sui and Han are at their best. But all those teams are much more consistent in a free skate because Sui and Han have that side-by-side triple sow that we have seen them do so rarely. So I think that they're going to need that, and they're going to need a great free skate. Of course, their emotional capacity in the free skate and their chemistry surpasses the two younger Russian teams, but the points add up when you're getting +4 and +5 on all of your pair elements and your jumps.
Well, how about my team, Peng and Jin? Because I really like them. They don't always necessarily have the side-by-side jumps. Sometimes they do them, sometimes they don't. But they do tend to have a really nice, especially free program this year. I really like it.
Very good.
No idea how they're going to stack up against other teams. Do you think they're in that 5th slot? Where you kind of
like when I watched their free skate there was some Chinese event a couple months ago, I feel like maybe in December. I watched their free skate and they had missed one of their jumps, but their free skate was just so good. And on that day, I was like, well, if they skate this clean, they might win worlds. And I do feel like sometimes they get overshadowed by Sui and Han, where a lot of what they do is sometimes a little bit better than Sui and Han in terms of, like, I think that the quality of some of their lifts are just a little bit better. But again, they have that issue with their jumps, especially the side-by-side triple sow. But they're a team that if they land the jumps, I think they will also be rewarded big. I think the judges are kind of waiting for that. But kind of being the second ranked team in their country doesn't help them very much. But I love them as well.
I kind of feel like the Russians are in a great spot to have 2 people on the podium this year, but then maybe in Beijing, it's another story. We don't know. This team has been working consistently. It seems like Sui and Han. One thing I wonder is that if they miss so much training time because of injuries, season after season after season, they don't really have time to improve. Whereas these other teams are adding new elements, the triple sow or the triple sow.
And we see that they're repeating 2 programs now at these World Championships. I saw they're doing like their 2017 short program. So one of their really old ones, which would lead me to imagine that they're going to come out with 2 brand new programs for the Olympic season once they can personally work with Lori. Whereas the other teams, I wonder if they're going to keep their programs that they're doing at these Worlds for next year. But I would hope that Boikova and Koslovskii get a new long program because this is the second year that they use it.
Well, what can you tell us about Kirsten and Michael? You know their coach very well. How are they, feeling going into these World Championships?
I have no idea. I have no clue.
Do you not ask Bruno? Does this not come up?
We don't really talk too much about skating these days at home. A little bit in what was like the preparation for Worlds in terms of like safety protocol, but skating, not so much. I think that they're a team that kind of fits in with that, like that Peng and Jin and maybe where Alexa and Brandon are going to fit in that group just below, fighting for medal positions. I think that one thing that's changed in skating, in pair skating, since I was competing a few years ago, is that you can't be competitive without those twists anymore. Like even when I think about Eric and I's twist, like we had an okay twist, like +1 or +2. Like right now in a short program, we'd be killed because of our twist. Was just not big enough and explosive enough. So I feel like in a short program, that is a little bit of a detriment to them, but they do always come out with well-rounded programs and, good styled programs for them. And if they skate cleanly, as we've seen them do a couple of times last season, they could find themselves in the mix. But I think that just from a mileage point of view, I don't see them kind of like in with the medal contenders this season just because they haven't been competing. It has nothing to do with their skating ability, just because they don't have the mileage the way that the 3 Russian teams do. That's why I'm just Sui and Han don't have the mileage that the 3 Russian teams do. Peng and Jin don't, nobody does.
So,
but I do think that to be competitive in that short program, you need those high flying twists. And that's something that could perhaps be their detriment.
Where do you both think Alyona and Bruno would have fit in at this competition? When she got the kid the Porsche ride-on toy, if it wooed him, where do we think they would have fit at these championships? I saw them skating for the show. I think we all got excited. Where would they have fit in here?
Probably right with those Russian teams for sure. But they would have needed to be consistent. And we saw, over their even throughout that Olympic season. They were not all that consistent, the Olympic season. They did the team event short and they made a mistake. They did the pair short and they made a mistake before their spectacular performance. So yeah, I think that they would have kind of fit into that medal contenders spot, where I think like before Mishina and Galliamov like showed up this year and had changed coaches to Moskvina, it really appeared like the bronze medal position at a world championships or at an Olympics could be up for grabs between so many teams. And I do think that next year at the Olympics, the variety of people competing for medal spots could be a little bit bigger than this year. Kirsten and Mike will have had a full season like of competition. So of course they'd be in the mix to be fighting for medals. Then Alexa and Brandon will have more momentum and more development as a team and experience. So they could be in that position as well, along with the third Russian team and Peng and Chen. And, you know, there's so many teams, but just because of the way this season has rolled out, I see the contenders for these worlds as just like this small group. I'd love to be surprised though. I'd love it if people surprised me and there was somebody totally random on the podium.
So Jonathan, Megan, who is your pick for winning the world title?
Tarasova and Morozov.
I kind of agree.
Jonathan? I legit have no idea. I have no idea because the Chinese pair situation is such a question mark. But
I mean, like, I hate to like appear as if I'm counting Sui and Han out, because I'm not. I have competed against them long enough to know that they can disappear for a whole year and come back and be amazing. But I think that this may just be Tarasova and Morozov's time and season.
I'm just curious because we have seen them sort of make big, I would say mental strides this season. Like they've delivered a couple of really solid performances. We always felt like on paper they should be doing the whole time and yet weren't. But I don't know, for me, there's just something inherently like special about the energy and excitement about Galliamov and this sort of whole thing. And they were even kind of rattling Boikova for a little bit there. So I do think it's probably going to be Russia 1, 2, 3. I just have no idea what order. Because I could see Tarasova and Morozov get so close, and then by getting so close, suddenly revert back to old isms.
Oh my God, totally.
Which is my fear that may happen.
In which case, one of those other Russian teams will be ready to step in. Like when, I think it was the Russia Cup finals when Mishina and Galliamov had that really great free skate. And when I was watching that, I was like, oh, well, this could win worlds. I've watched so many skaters this year where I've like, oh, they're going to win. Oh, they're going to win.
Yeah.
You know, it just keeps on going every day, somebody different.
I like Mishina and Galliamov a little bit better than Boikova and Koslovskii we talked about earlier. I mean, I like a man with a good lunge. So
I love how bold they are skating to that music for their free skate as well. Like I just kind of like it. It's like ballsy.
It's different. I mean, it's so funny. A classic rock song that you would hear on any radio station. But, you know, I think in skating, it is revolutionary and I like it. I like Moskvina's energy too this season. I just have always really liked her.
I would like her energy more if her mask just went a little bit higher, but.
You know, yes, I would agree.
But I do love her as well. I do.
You know,
I do love her.
A tough year, so I would love to see something good happen for her.
Me too.
You know, with
sometimes I wonder if I love her teams just because I love her.
Well, I like her.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I do. Yeah, no question.
Very
linked
together.
She brings.
You know, one time at the Olympics in Sochi, when we finished 7th, she came up to me and she was like, "Your coach must be very disappointed. I think he expected you to win a medal." And I was like, "Is that an insult, or is she like?" She expected
telling you can.
Too. So is that kind of like a hidden compliment?
I think, yeah.
Yeah. I like her though. She's very funny. She makes me laugh.
Yes, she is funny. And she's not a yeller, which is very rare. I mean, like she's not a yeller in practice. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. So I was talking to Elena Bechke about them. So it's she's a gem, but I would like to see it. I do think it's probably going to be Tarasova and Morozov's year. I think they have the buzz. And I think the fact that Russia isn't a slam dunk to really win in the dance event, I think they're going to put their mojo behind pairs and go big. So I think they're going to put their medal hopes between the ladies, the pairs, and getting Kolyada as close to the podium as they can this season. So I think that's where they're kind of going to spread their political pull.
Spread the love.
Yes. So how about the men's situation? Interesting development. Bo Yang Jin is officially with Brian Orser as his coach, even though they have only been working over Zoom in collaboration. We've also
Wait, when did this happen? I'm totally out to lunch.
Like the other day.
The other day
Yesterday
it was
or
listed,
today?
but it's been in the works for a while. Rika Kihira is also supposed to be going there, but she was supposed to be going there over a year ago.
Right.
And
But I thought Boyan was as well supposed to have gone there.
this also was supposed to happen
over like a year and a half ago.
So he's supposed to go there, but then Beverly Zhou, who is from China, was brought back to China to train, even though she was at the cricket club. So it's like a lot of moving parts. Rika was supposed to go there before, but she was with Lambiel. Then she's been working in Colorado. I don't know who the jump
Tom Dixon usually, I think.
Usually Tom Dixon, but he's in Finland. So he was working with his ex-wife, Katarina Lindgren, who he still works with, even though they're divorced, which makes like so much sense, even though they like shared an email address for years. Like, all of and it's just, yeah. So, and Rika seems to have a lot of momentum for someone, you know, it's been all Russia all year, the last several years. And in the last couple of weeks, everyone all of a sudden has woken up and been like, Rika Kihira is really in this at the World Championships. So on the men's side, obviously Boyang Jin switching to the cricket club. And that's interesting because he always worked with Lori. Lori doesn't work with the cricket club.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand Canadian politics and why that is, but right, there's this whole like who's getting consulting fees for China and all of that. But he's supposed to be there. We saw Hanyu one time this season. We've seen Nathan.
He was very good.
He was great coaching himself.
Yeah, of course.
What do you expect from him?
I think he's always like in some ways coached himself.
Yeah, what do you make of his chances going in?
Well, we saw him compete very well at the Japanese nationals.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to skate very well.
Yeah.
I never doubt that. I think that he delivers. I wonder how the lack of audience will affect him because he always has so much support from the audience, right? Like this is something that's very common, his fans that flood into arenas. How will he perform and what type of energy will he have without an audience? This I wonder a lot about that. And I wonder if after watching Nathan Chen, perhaps at US Nationals, if he is going to perhaps try something such as a quad lutz in a short program, which could take him out of contention completely should he miss it. So I wonder like what type of decision and strategy he has. I think if he wants to win, he doesn't need the quad lutz. He just needs to skate really, really well and be as great as he can be and, you know, see how Nathan does on the day. But yeah, I wonder about the audience and how that'll affect him. I wonder if he's going to show up and try something crazy in the short program because he thinks he needs to. Yeah, and other than that, like,
I mean, I'm curious.
I expect him to just be Yuzu to be really good.
like, are you, if you're in his position, are you worried about this World Championships or are you using this World Championships to just practice for the Olympics? Do you know what I mean? Is this the time to throw something wild in the short program to sort of get used to it, see how it goes? Or would you play it safe because it's a better impression to place above Nathan here? Like, well, I don't know if you use it as
do a quad lutz, then he should go for it in the short program. If it's consistent and it's reliable, then yes, he should do it. It could give him that little bit of an edge, even over somebody else who's like could be coming up from behind. But I'm like, I say that I would not want him to try it, just assuming it's not consistent, but perhaps it is. I don't know. I don't see him train at all. It's like impossible to be in Yuzu's head. Like he's like some like from another planet, in a good way. He's just, I don't understand him. I don't know how he lives the way he lives. I don't know how he can skate and handle this type of pressure and do everything that he does. It's like superhero on all sorts of levels. So I find it so hard to read him as a skater and as a human being. I have a really hard time like
who knows
understanding and knowing and trying to figure him out.
I was talking to someone who's seen him train, and they were saying that, you know, for a long time, he would really prepare to skate last almost every day, where he would, you know, warm up on a 6-minute
and get off the ice
for almost an hour and then or 40 minutes and then get back onto a full program every single day with the same kind of, you know, competition intensity and not training maybe 1 million hours in order to keep his body really fresh.
he did tell Eric at one point that he doesn't train as many hours anymore. He just skates 2 sessions and they're short, and he just feels like it's safer in the long term for his body.
And he has held up really well. When you look at how long his career has gone on for. I wonder with him, I always wondered why he doesn't do the 2 quad loops, because when he does do the quad loop, I think it's such a spectacular element. I don't think it's as consistent as his others, maybe in practice, but he is such a good competitor. For me, I think his weakest elements are his triple lutz and maybe sometimes the triple flip. But I would look at all of the other elements that he does, and he can get near the top. If he has a great day, I think he's always tough to beat at any competition, right? If he's going to skate well.
Yeah, I think that's something else that he could do in a short program to put himself a little bit further ahead of Nathan without trying the quad lutz. He's the type of skater that can do the quad triple as the third jumping pass to get the bonus very easily. And a quad loop triple toe for that matter. He could probably do that when he's tired in a short program. He's just like that crazy good. So that's something that he can do instead of learning the quad lutz. There's a way to strategize those type of decisions.
And he, you never know which quads Nathan is going to do. He switches them often based on how his body is feeling. Nathan does, when he does a quad flip, he tends to do it on the diagonal edge of the rink and tends to land very forward. I don't think he gets as many, points in GOE as he could if they're really judging fairly. I would think that Hanyu has some wiggle room to be, if he's really spectacular, to contend, especially in terms of the grade of it. He seems to try to maximize every point, whereas Nathan, sometimes on the spins, sometimes on the jump landings, he can really give things away. And I think in the components, there is a difference.
And sometimes if you watch, and I love Nathan, I don't say this in any way that I don't like him. He's one of my favorite skaters and he's such a great person. Because he changes his jumps on the fly. Every one of his jumps is on the same pattern. He takes off, he has 5 jumps in the same spot and then another 3 in the same spot on the other side of the ice. And sometimes he has 2 out of his 3 spins in the exact same spot. And this is a composition. This should be part of our composition. It should be. But I think that he has to have it choreographed like this so that flip can be a toe or that lutz can be a flip. He has it choreographed in a way that these jumps can be interchangeable, which is just crazy that he can do that. I don't understand how after a 6-minute warm-up, he goes backstage and decides what he's going to do. That would just totally throw me off and I would be terrible. But he does it, and he does it so calm and cool and collected, and I just don't understand it all. But I'd say that my biggest issue with him is the fact that things go in the same spot all the time in his programs. And I don't think people notice that a lot. So maybe it's something that some of the people maybe watching this don't notice, and you should watch and look out for that. It's always on the same circle.
But it's a
very Russian thing.
That is really interesting.
And when we choreograph programs, we would literally be oh, we've already done 2 things there. We cannot do another element in that spot. This is something that the way that we choreographed that we would do. I know Julie does that a lot with everybody. One lift went from this corner to this corner. The next lift has to go up the ice the other way. We're always trying to do that because the way that we understand is that that's part of the composition mark.
I was dinged for that my first year in adult. My program compositionally and in terms of the direction, you
always went the same direction.
Yeah, I was a new skater, so
of course. And we're always way more comfortable one way.
Yeah. Now,
but I love Nathan, and
I do too. I think his short is better than his free. I don't think this is his year in terms of programs.
I don't love either program this year. I don't think they capture his charisma. I think that he experimented knowing that he's going to get a little bit better material for the Olympics.
I think I'm least enthusiastic about these programs that he's done maybe since 2017, that season. And that season he had the cool costume that did the visual effect when he spun.
I remember that. But let me ask you, do we love Yuzu's programs?
No, but I do think that
I find that both of them don't have memorable programs. Nathan and Yuzu, neither of their programs are memorable.
I think the skaters with the best programs this year in the men's event are Shoma, short and long, and Kolyada, that long.
Yeah,
free
Mikhail.
skate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh. I mean,
I agree.
they're probably, in my opinion, vying for third between the two of them. But I think together they have much more interesting material than I think who's gunning for the number one spot.
Mhm. Like talking about Nathan always jumping in the same spot. Users basically reused the same program for many, many years. Like he literally did with music, but sometimes the music is different and the program's exactly the same.
Very Michelle Kwan.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, we all do it to a certain extent. I think that this is just something that could maybe be improved.
But there's a safety in that. And that's sort of what I get from them is they're just skating safe with this material. Where again, I feel like the Shoma and the Kolyada programs are trying to push. And it's so much more interesting for me as a viewer, even if they're not going to be able to keep up technically.
I agree. I really like Mikhail's free skate, speaking of that.
Yeah.
So you did overlap in terms with Lambiel in terms of shows and career enough. What do you know about his training, his kind of methods? Do you think Shoma is doing more programs? He's someone that didn't like to do his programs in the past. Do you think that Lambiel has been peaking him more? I mean, he has looked much better under Stefan, I think, and more prepared than we've ever seen before. What do you expect from him at these championships?
Yeah, I don't really know much about like Stefan's like coaching strategies or the way that he like coaches. I see him at shows a lot with his skaters. But sometimes the skaters are on the show practice and he's not even there. Because he's also skating in these shows, right? So he has himself to get ready. I think that Shoma's issue is not his programs. I wouldn't even so much as say his training. I think it was just kind of correcting a little bit of the swingy technique on his quad toe and the takeoff on his quad flip. I think those were his major issues that, were, for the most part, probably holding him down a little bit. And the combinations, getting the triple toe on the end of those jumps.
Especially in the short, always.
Yeah, always a double toe on the end.
Because, Dave and I have talked about this a lot with several skaters, but Shoma being one of the most prominent ones. When you get a skater that's landing so swingy out of these things, like I remember this was a big discussion with Courtney Hicks too, but we've seen a couple skaters this season, just be so swingy out of those things. And it seems to me that this is just a checking issue, but I'm sure that's very easy as a fan sitting on his couch to say, well, why don't you just check? As if it was a choice that they're just not taking. But what do you view the solution to that really would be?
Well, I think part of it is such a habit. Like once you do something and you're at a certain level and you've done something the way that you've done it for so long, it is a habit. And I think that the way that Shoma takes off of his jumps with his body opening a lot just leads to kind of that over rotation and wild landings a little bit.
Okay.
Which when he does land something makes it really exciting. That it's like, oh, wow, like that was so cool. But yeah, I think a lot of it is literally just bad habits that were picked up and not corrected at a young age, to be honest.
Okay. But that primarily is from the body alignment as he's
That's
taking
what it looks like to
too
me.
open, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, I find that on the takeoffs, like it's just a little bit, it's good. You have to bring your body through, but it's almost like he just goes a little too far, which in turn on the landing, he's still going too far.
Okay.
And then also because he has such a nice deep knee bend on his landings, that also creates a little bit more of an ability to get out of control.
Okay.
I think.
Kolyada, he was a talented up and coming skater. Then he had a lot of popping issues. Then took a complete year off. The word was sinus issues. It seems like he came back refreshed, rejuvenated, maybe de-stressed, married, lots of things changed.
He got married? I didn't know that.
He got married.
He seems like he's like 18 to me. I feel like he's a kid.
The baby face.
Yeah.
So he had a family emergency that caused him to just wind up in Alexei Mishin's lap in the most wonderful of ways. And he seems to have been preparing him really well. He's adding, he's going to do 2 quads in the short. Where do you make of his chances here?
Why do more skaters not go to Alexei Mishin? Like, why do more Russians, like, I don't want to like dig into this. I know it's a whole nother issue, but I'm just going to say it very briefly and then move on. Like, why when Kosternaya left Italy, went to Plushenko, and it didn't work out. Why was her only option to go back to Italy? If I was her, I would have gone to Mishina or Davidov. Like, there's other options. I just don't like, Mishina has 3 skaters on the Russian team at these world championships. His coaching staff and team is doing a very good job. I just don't understand why more people aren't going to that school.
Like, is this a literal like geographical situation because they don't want to go to St. Petersburg or something? Because Plushenko is also in Moscow, right?
Yeah.
Plushenko's in Moscow.
Yeah.
Meagan is in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
There's
So
a lot of politics within
The cities.
Russian skating as well. And some people
But we see skating right now thriving in St. Petersburg. That's where 2 of those pair teams are. Not all, but a lot of their successful junior pair teams are. I just wonder why more people aren't on that route, because look how well we've seen Mikhail throughout that, and just year after year seen Tuktamysheva like just keep reappearing. Like something is being done right. And Tuktamysheva seems very healthy, very well-rounded, very happy. So I just wonder.
So one of the interesting things is that, there are different schools of jump technique in terms of switching it. And for someone like Kosternaya, it may be a little bit too late, but she doesn't really have the Dudikov jump technique, and she got her jump technique at Tchaikovskaya school from Elena Zhigun, who was her coach there. And Plushenko didn't know how to help her with her jumps before the Russian Cup final. And they actually brought in her first coach, Elena Zhigun, to try to help her get her jumps back before. And now they're back to a Terry. I just think it's very interesting. It might be too much of a switch to Mishina technique for someone like her, when I think that...
Because we have to imagine that Plushenko is teaching very much like Mishina, because that was his coach.
So maybe that has something to do with it, but I would think that Mishina would be a really great option.
I think so too.
Especially if you can already skate and you already have choreography, as we've seen from Kolyada. If you come with the skating skills, he can help you in the other area. It doesn't work. So
I am very impressed with Mikhail this year. I think that he's looked very good. He has a great long program. He seems more serious, maybe taking his skating or his training more seriously, because he's kind of grown up a little bit, because I guess he's not 18. I don't actually know how old he is. But I think that, he definitely has an opportunity here to win a medal again in a pre-Olympic season, which would set him up well for the Pyeongchang Olympics. And I think that very important that he does a clean short program and gets himself stable after that.
Well, and that's my question then to you, because as we were talking about, is this when Hanyu takes a risk in the short, or does he play it safe to maintain his status? So now Kolyada, we're so happy. He's not really popping. He's basically landing the quad toe pretty consistently. And now they're going to put 2 quads in the short. And I'm like, what are you doing? In my opinion, I thought we had taken such strides to getting him consistent and confident. And so now this seems like at the biggest competition of the season to give him the biggest amount of risk in the short program. I mean, obviously Mishina has experience in all of this, but to me, as someone who's really rooting for him, I hope that this isn't just too much, too last minute at the biggest event of the season. This would have been something to try at one of the test skates, I feel.
Maybe he has tried it in monitoring, but yes, he hasn't tried it in competition. But I feel like a move like this is because he wants to be pushing the Yuzuru and the Nathan. He's not happy just to be third. He wants more than that. That's what I see out of that type of strategy in the short program.
If he's in the running, he has the best free skate of any of them. So even if he does 1 fewer quad, you have to think that his components and his overall quality has to. In terms of how tight he is, I think that's always the big question mark. We've seen a couple times he's gotten a little tight in the second half and given away easy points on his easier elements. But I think he's been building. And it seems like, yes, he's adding in quads, but we also know that he can do a quad Lutz, and he's only adding in the quad south. So maybe it's not as big of a jump for him psychologically. It seems like Mishina has a plan. I'm very curious to see how he does with 2 quads and adding it in, because I imagine they've been working up to this in some sort of a strategic way. He was supposed to do it earlier before he had COVID. So I don't know. What do you make of Vincent Zhou? He's kind of a dark horse in Boyang Jin. They kind of are the 2 dark horses going in here.
It's true. Sometimes I forget about Vincent when I'm thinking about these skaters, and he won a medal the last time that we had a world championships. I mean, that they're always possible medal contenders and to be on the podium, and Bojan as well. Like, we've seen him skate very well. It's been a while since we've seen those great skates from him, but we know that it's possible. I think that for Vincent, it's about the clean jump landings, or that the caller gives him the clean jump landings. We've seen, you know, the calls being inconsistent for him sometimes. So I think this is vital for him. And I don't know where he's ranked in the world standing. I would assume he's going to skate like pretty late in the short program. So that should be helpful to him in terms of getting the component score he needs to be in the top group. But again, there's something about his programs that I also just like kind of forget. I don't know. Like, there's not something that pops to me about
And
him.
I do have to give him
He's really
credit.
good and he's just there. But then Jason's got the great program. So then I remember what Jason did, even though Vincent is beating him.
Right. Well, and I think Vincent has taken these small strides. He has taken small steps forward in the program.
Yes.
But if you have many steps to take, your small steps forward still have limitations. I mean, I'm curious where someone like Jason does place in this, because especially in the short program, I think this is actually, if Mikhail's free skate is the best free skate, I think Jason's short program is one of the finest men's short programs I have ever seen, ever. And, you know, we see the international judges go with this. In the US especially, they're very keen on making sure Vincent is doing well. But internationally, I think we see the judges love to throw Jason anything they can at any time.
Oh my God, Jason can get close to 100 without even trying a quad in that short program. Because
exactly.
He can get everything a +4, +5. Like,
Yeah.
he can be that skater and then be in the 9.5, 9.75, 10 for every component.
Right.
Where we can really see him excel in a short program like that, but the content of the free skate just can't hold up with wherever he will place in the short program.
I do think that he's going to rely on other skaters to make mistakes. I think that putting in the quad for the free is dicey, because if he makes a mistake or he pops it, if he rotates it and falls, fine. If he pops it, he's giving away so many points with only 7 jumping passes that it's deadly.
And I think what like makes Nathan such a great skater is that he creates those moments. And that's why so many times he has these great short programs, because he skates clean and then he lets himself loose, like even more loose and into the performance. Whereas that's all he has to do in a long program, is like to create that moment and to skate clean. And he may not win a medal, but he'll still be very close to those podiums at any event he enters when he skates clean. I'd rather see Jason, and I'm all for pushing the envelope, like obviously, but I'd rather see a skater like Jason not try the quad and go out there and skate an amazing free skate, have an incredible moment, and be remembered for that.
There's extra pressure on him to do it with Yarrow behind him, supposed to get citizenship in the US. Trying
he's so far from Jason still. He's right behind him, maybe factually, but still so far from him in terms of components and skating skills.
And I just wonder with PCS and like all this sort of stuff, how much is detracted by opening a great program with a thud?
Yeah.
Or opening with, I mean, then all of the PCS just kind of just goes down that one
the
notch.
impact's lost.
Yeah. And with the deduction on the fall, I mean, I think you stand more to lose than to gain by the attempt, for me, because I think we all know, even if he does sort of come out with some super under rotated one, I think we all know that this isn't really probably going to happen.
I just don't feel like the pressure that he probably feels is worth it. I like to see him just go out there, have that amazing program, do everything to the best quality that he can. And I think that his scores would be quite high for the free skate, even without trying a quad, if he could just nail everything else.
Well, I know that he felt, or at least there was talk, that he needed a quad to make the team, even though Adam didn't really do a quad. The last time he would go for kind of a planned mistake on a quad Lutz that wasn't really rotated. But there was like the perception in the US he needed to be going for the quad, and that was hurting Jason going into the last Olympic team selection.
Yeah.
It's almost like the same situation repeating itself. And I kind of agree with you that maybe he should not do it, especially if he hasn't been successful yet.
Maybe he can do both triple axles in the second half of his program. Maybe he can strategize, just open his program the way that he used to with a double axle, and then do a triple sow, like do some easy stuff and get, as much done in the bonus as possible and maybe get pick up a couple extra points like that.
How about Keegan messing? Because he's going in there with the pressure of getting 2 spots for Canada. I do think that Canada deserves 2 spots. How much pressure do you think is on him? Obviously he didn't compete at the national challenge event because of this whole virtual situation and everything that's going on. Where do you think?
I don't think he could compete there because he lives in Alaska and there was nobody to watch him film in Alaska or something.
Yeah, they solved that in the US.
He should have been able to compete. He's a Canadian skater. He competed at the Olympics for Canada. I don't understand whatsoever why somebody couldn't be on FaceTime with his coach checking that the video was valid. This doesn't make sense to me at all. Keegan's one of those skaters where like he could make a final warm-up group for the free skate. He could skate a clean short with 1 quad and like good quality, entertaining performance, great spins, and end up, in the final warm-up group, and then feel a lot of pressure and maybe not do so great in the free skate as we've seen from him in the past. I think that it's very possible for him to be top 10 and to get 2 spots for Canada. But I think that he just needs to stay calm and deliver a strong free skate.
What if you were on that selection committee? Would you have gone with a Keegan that feels like more of a safe bet to finish top 10? Or would you kind of try to hope to cultivate something exciting by sending Roman?
I think I would have gone with Keegan because Keegan actually has the potential, if he skates 2 amazing performances, to be as high as 5th at the World Championships. He has the potential to be that high. It's unlikely, but he can. Right now, Roman and Nam don't have the potential to be that high. So on a good day, Keegan has the potential right now at the world level to place the highest of those 3. That's not to say that the other 2 couldn't have come top 10 either. That's not to say that at all. But yeah, I thought that they would go with Keegan before I knew that they would.
Okay, because as someone who's not been on a Canadian Olympic team, I see someone like Roman skating, and I see so much greater potential in the long term, maybe even than Keegan.
Yes.
But was there, do you think it was just a concern about what he was able to deliver now?
Yes.
Because he bombed
I think right now, if Keegan goes to Worlds and skates an amazing short and an amazing long, he can be as high as 5th or 6th. If Roman went to Worlds and skated the best short and best long he can, he wouldn't place that high right now.
Okay, see, it's interesting. I almost wonder if they chose it because they don't think he could have delivered a clean short and a clean long. Because for me, I think if it was
maybe that's why. I might have
placed him.
My opinion.
Okay.
My understanding was that it was really the monitoring that did it. Like it was almost a no-brainer because
they also only monitored a short program.
Yes.
Let's remember that. And let's remember what Keegan's biggest strength is.
The short.
It's his short.
But Roman's biggest weakness, the reason they didn't send him last year was because of the short, and then he missed it during the monitoring. So.
And then twice Nam has been to Worlds and not made it out of the short.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like an automatic kind of black mark against him.
I
do think all 3 of them could have been top 10. It's not that one of them doesn't have the ability.
I think Nam is the 3rd option between the 3. If I'm thinking like strategically in terms of who
is Nam.
Nam, I would think. I think that Nam has reached his potential, what we're going to see. I think he can deliver good performances, but in terms of what I see is like growth potential.
Yeah.
I think Keegan could add in a quad lutz. I think that Roman could continue to grow his skating. I don't see Nam taking it up, those next notches. So, how about the World Team Trophy? Do we know if Canada is going? Is the World Team Trophy really happening? Can these skaters?
Apparently happening, but is there 5 or 6 countries that goes to World Team Trophy? I thought there was 5. And then somebody told me that they think it's 6. And then now
I thought it was 6. I thought it used to be like 6 boxes.
But there was like the bottom boxes for like whoever's in the kiss and cry.
Oh, maybe.
So I think Canada's 5th right now. So we should qualify for Team Trophy. But Keegan doesn't have to quarantine when he comes back, but he has said that he's not doing World Team Trophy. So I would assume that it is Nam and Roman getting the opportunity to go there. So they've kind of spread the wealth, but it seems like Keegan got the pressure with the wealth.
Yeah.
The World Team Trophy.
Mm-hmm. I think. I have no idea though.
Oh my goodness. Who will go for pairs in the World Team Trophy then?
Probably the team that came second at Challenge from Quebec, Lauriane and Thierry.
Okay. Oh, that's
Who
okay.
I thought maybe might have been selected for Worlds for Canada's second team.
No, Evelyn and Chen, we haven't seen them in competition all year. So
And last year, Lauriane and Thierry beat them in a short program at a competition. And Lauriane and Thierry showed up at that virtual challenge, much improved. It was their best free skate I've ever seen them do. And they scored, in the exact scores that we've seen Trent and Evelyn, like their highest scores. So I thought that they may have been selected for Worlds, but.
How about the dance?
It's what I know the least.
I think we all know the least about it because we haven't seen any of these teams stack up against each other, especially on the same panel, and without knowing who's judging or who's competing and what's going on. I mean, the Russian teams, it was Sinitsina and Katsalapov, then they were injured, then we saw Stepanova and Bukin, then we saw Sinitsina and Katsalapov again. And then
we saw her like dying of COVID.
Yes, and she's had knee problems,
but then they looked pretty good at the Russia Cup final.
Pretty good, but I think if they were not Russian, how do I put this? If they weren't from Russia, I would say pretty clearly, if I were judging honestly, that I would go the two Marie France teams, Piper and Paul, in there for the top three, and then they'd be kind of fighting with the Italians. For 4, 5, and 6, it would be Barbara
Both Russians and Italian.
Yeah, both Russians and the Italians. If I were being honest, if we were taking the judging of ice dance out of it, that's how I would call it. But
what are they called? Figure skaters from Russia now? Is that like what it's called?
Yes, I think yes.
I expect it to be in some order. USA, Russia on the podium, but I do think like if there's ever a chance for Piper and Paul to make their way, this could be an opportunity for them, because the French are not competing at these world championships. But yeah, like knowing the political side, I have to say
is that team I loved
the USA Russia.
Is that team I love so much from Canada? They're going the Rio, the Bird program.
Oh,
no, the third rank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going.
I loved that free dance. And
they're very good.
It's totally out of left field, but I was like, this is, we're seeing a lot of repeat programs. We're seeing a lot of repeat styles. Like when they came out and they were just like birding it up all over the place in that virtual competition, I just couldn't get enough of it. I thought it was amazing.
They're really good. And I think that their time will come to, be towards the top of the world, if not at the top of the world. They have a lot of potential and they're still really young. He's like a concert pianist, I think, and an actor,
that's why I like him.
She's an actress, and like they are very successful in life.
Okay.
So
very successful.
Do you have a gut feeling about which American team you think is going to take it? At this point, I think it's interesting that we didn't, going into nationals, I think it was kind of a no-brainer that Hubbell and Donohue had such an advantage because Chock and Bates were off the ice. But now we're going into the World Championships and they've both been preparing since nationals. We haven't heard about anyone being off the ice.
But remember, Hubbell won nationals because Chock and Bates made a mistake.
Yes. So do you feel like they're going to give it to Chock and Bates then? What is your gut say?
I have no idea. My gut says nothing. I have no clue. I think that because Hubbell has a refreshed free dance this year, I think that they have the energy with their free dance, although I love Chock and Bates free dance and I was in love with it last year and I love it. I wonder if the international judges are going to be like, oh, well, I saw this already.
But did they see it already? Because how much did they do it in front of an international panel last year? I knew
the Grand Prix, 4 continents.
Yeah.
Couple times, quite a few times.
Won.
They did it very well.
Yeah.
It was well received and I still love it. But it's always that question, do they want to see something really good again, or do they want to see something brand new with a new refreshed energy? I don't know.
Okay, so my question is though, yes, Chock and Bates are repeating a free skate. However, there are some pieces of music, like Imagine, that as great as the song is, you hear it and you groan because it's so overdone, whether you're watching American Idol, whether you're watching The Voice, whether you're watching figure skating, you're just like, get an original idea. In 2007, I studied abroad in London. I lived off of Edgware Road. I went to the Marble Arch tube station, and I used to kind of like sing it in my head every morning, especially for the first month when I would see Marble Arch when I was in the morning. When I hear Hallelujah, I'm like, that was 2007 and the song was overplayed then. Now we're in 2021, and yes, they have a refreshed energy, but it's Hallelujah. This is not.
And I'm not a fan of the overused music. Like, I'm not a fan of people using these classics.
Well, and the thing that was so intriguing, like the Snake Charmer program, or however they're referring to it, is such a crowd-pleasing, showy program, right? So it may not be as complex or as profound in certain technical ways, but it's giving you flash and pizzazz. Without a live audience, I think that kind of program, even with a first season out with it energy, is going to be much less with the audience.
Yeah, but have you seen how good she looks in that Matthew Caron costume?
Yes,
like,
I most certainly have.
That is eye candy for the camera, and judges are human. Okay.
But
I think it's come down to which one of them handles the pressure of winning a short dance, perhaps, should that happen.
I worry about Hubbell
Because
and Donohue.
we've seen both those teams crumble under pressure over the years. They're prone, both those teams, to making mistakes when the stakes are high and they have a chance for big success. So which one of them will handle it? Maybe the one that's the winner at the end of the day.
Who is working with Marie France's life coach more? Okay. Who?
Maybe, yeah. Or like, what do we know? Maybe Nikita and Victoria are going to be there. And
but like, have you seen really Nikita's twizzles?
We can't roll it out.
Nikita's twizzles are like this situation. It's like Oksana is going to skate. We are all crossing ourselves, and we don't know.
But last year they were already ready, putting them ahead of the French. So how can we know? What do I know? When I think about it, it's like, what do I know?
The French did have like a spoken word free dance. That was the most French thing of all time.
Yeah.
We had such an argument. Jonathan and I had the biggest argument over that program.
I was for it. I'm like, do it. Be artsy. Go. If not an ice dance, where? Like, come on.
It's
like,
true.
give me that. Yeah.
True.
I really liked their tango when we saw it for like 5 seconds. I don't think we're ever going to see it because I don't think they're going to do it
from this season.
Yes, when we saw them at like the I Am Montreal like start, and then I don't know if we're ever going to see it because maybe it didn't feel Olympic. It felt like that kind of cool experimental program you do at Worlds, but
yeah,
it's the biggest tragedy of this season. That'll be like the program that we imagine in our minds. But yeah, I don't know.
Dance is like a big question mark to me about what's going to happen.
Yeah,
like I really have no idea.
Don't know.
Something happened with the two US and the Russian team, and the Canadians end up with a medal. Could it be the Italians? Like, could it be Bukin and not Nikita and Victoria? Like, it could go that way.
Meagan, you're a fitness person. What in God's name is activation, and how is it different than yoga or a warm-up or?
Well, activation would be like a warm-up.
Okay.
Or a recovery.
He like basically is doing a mix of yoga. Zach, he does like a mix for off-ice training, but he calls it activation, but it's kind of conditioning / yoga put together.
Yeah. Like a prep, like what you would do before you go on the ice or what you would do on a recovery day. Activation would be like a really light workout. You probably don't get your heart rate up, you don't sweat, but you're still strengthening.
He's strength-based, yeah.
He's what?
It's very strength-based, is what I was saying.
Yeah.
Now, okay, how about the ladies? Do you have opinions on this?
Meagan, this is what I'm looking forward to most. Pairs schmairs. I want to get all of your technical opinions on these ladies.
Okay.
What is your opinion on what's going on in Russia between the Angels of Plushenka and Terry Jude?
Oh my God, well, that's like just ridiculous drama. I like Tuktamysheva.
Amazing.
Let's go there, that she's like back at a world championships and she still does a triple axel. And she is like going through all these generations of Russian skaters are dying off. And she's like, no, I'm still here.
She's been through like 4 cycles of ladies.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Remember when she
Like,
just hated
how can you
Sobnikova?
not
What a simpler
want
time.
that to be rewarded? I don't care about her lack of choreography. I don't care. Like right now, like that doesn't even matter. I appreciate her resiliency and her determination and her ability to just show up while all these girls drop like flies.
And
Like,
Megan, I don't know if you've seen her quads that she's posted on like Instagram or in practices or whatever. But it's something I've talked to Dave a lot about. When we see the quads of a Shcherbakova or a Trusova, it's changing a little bit this season for me. But in general, I'm like, how are these women doing these remarkable things? And somehow I don't really care in some ways. Like it doesn't have the gravitas I was hoping watching a lady doing a quad would. And then I see Tuktamysheva do like a quad on a practice
jumps like
session.
A man, that's why.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, she covered the whole rink and she touched the rafter. It was so exciting. I wish she was gonna try them here, but I don't think she is.
You know why I think I like her? Like, and I'm really drawn to her. I've done a lot of shows with her and I've competed with her for many years. Oh my gosh, when we were she was 14, I was in 14 or whatever. She was on the Grand Prix circuit for the first time and she was at Skate Canada and she was wearing this mini skirt to the banquet. And I walked by and I was like, does her mother know she's wearing that? That was my introduction to Tuktamysheva. But I love her. And, you know, I've done a lot of shows and I've competed a lot and met all of these Russian girls, but she's real. Like she loves to skate. She loves it. She's like a real person. Whereas sometimes I don't think the others are in that sense. She's healthy. She looks healthy. She enjoys skating. She likes to push herself. She likes to train. She likes to compete. Like she thrives on this. Whereas we see some of those other girls just looking so miserable, looking very unhealthy. So I think that's why I appreciate and I love what she does so much. And I love that she jumps like a man. Like I love her jumps. I love her like strong triple axel. And yeah, I love it.
What do you make of the fighter Sasha Trusova? Do you love her as much as
I love her as well? Not as much as Tuktamysheva. I don't really know her personally the way that I know Elizaveta, but I love Trusova. Like I love her fighting spirit and she's fearless. I really like her energy. I like her attack. I think it was the team competition. She did that quad toe in the second half of her free skate and she had it on a new pattern than she used to do it on. And it was just like, bam, in your face, like this really strong. It was kind of a quad toe, like the videos we'd seen of Tuktamysheva. It was strong and it was there and I loved it. And I was like, oh my God, like that was spectacular.
I'm curious to get your take because since she's gone to Plushenko, like I've sort of seen, especially earlier in the fall with she did this quad sow at some point in the fall that was like mind blowing to me, but it seems to my eye, like they're a leggier technique that I respond to more or am more familiar with. Do you have an idea of maybe what kind of technique was employed before and how they might be changing it to get this sort of bigger effect from it?
Well, I think it's just like simple, but it's not really simple. The difference of a spinny technique and just trying to get into your rotation as fast as possible and whip it. Whereas we're seeing that quad toe from Trusova or the way that Tuktamysheva does her triple axel, there's strength and power to those jumps. And I don't know if it's like Machine's technique or, you know, technique changes over time, it develops. And Trusova's strong. Like she has muscles, she's strong. Maybe this is just her natural power on the jumps, or maybe it's something that was, you know, enforced through her new coaching change. And even her quadlets, I know it's been a little less consistent, but it's still got that explosive power a little bit more this year than it did in the past. And that's the wow jumps. When I watch some of the other girls do their quads, like you were saying, I don't really find them as wow. But I love Trusova. I don't like when I watch her do her free skate and she does like 8 cross cuts and a pump and a couple more cross cuts and there's no choreography whatsoever. And then she goes and does the same thing on the other end. But I'm still drawn to her and I'm really excited by her and I like her energy. And when she doesn't skate great, she still seems happy. So that's like, that's kind of a sign of somebody that has a good character and healthy emotionally and mentally. So I respect that. Like when she finishes a bad skate, it's kind of like, oh, damn it. Like I really wanted 5 quads, but I only did 2. She takes it like lightly. And from what I've read and what I've seen, like throughout like Plushenko and her saying things, that she does work really hard and she pushes herself and it comes from within her. It's her that wants more and her that's pushing for more.
I do hope she can find consistency. I know in the past some of the problems they had with the Terry were, I think that they felt like Terry wanted her to do fewer quads and they didn't know if it was because she was pushing other girls or how it seemed. But I think that one of the problems is that she wasn't always landing 6 quads in a program or however many she was trying throughout a competition, with stamina, doing them cleanly. In the past, they weren't always so rotated last season, but this year they do look bigger. And all the ones that she's done, like her quad style that she did at that one competition was probably the best quad that I've seen of anyone. She can do the best quad toe by any of the ladies when she does it. The Lutz, questionable rotation this season, but I do think that if she's peaked and she looks like she's been improving and is on a high, it is, very possible. Whereas Anna Shcherbakova, who I would expect to win, it almost seems like there's constantly this like doom and gloom around how is Anna's health condition? She had COVID, then she's still sick. They gave her smelling salts at a competition.
She looks so frail.
Yes, and then the next
like I can't enjoy watching her. She looks sickly.
Also, the fact that they talk about doping and everything, and the fact that we're seeing a girl who is so ill one day that she's having smelling salts and then, heaving after her short program and completely sick and out of breath. And less than 24 hours later, it looks like she's,
landing all these quads.
Lands all these quads in the best health of her life, no coughing, anything.
And the coaching staff looks like a miracle just occurred.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that because no one covers it in the press, that everyone ignores, that we just like saw something happen that is like Lance Armstrong levels. That's not so much, right? Like that should not have happened medically.
Dave, can you remind me at like a world championship or Meagan, who is it that gets tested? Is it always the winner and then someone random, or is it just someone random, or how does that work? Top three will get tested. Okay.
Yeah. Just going back one more moment to Trusova. I know I was talking about all her crosscuts and pumps at the beginning of her program, and that does happen, and it's unfortunate. I think she's a better skater than that, but I do understand she's putting all of her focus and energy to those multiple quads. Her basic skating skills have improved since switching to Plushenko. We have. They haven't come through in every single component of her programs, but I've seen it more so in the short program than a free skate when she doesn't have all those quads. The basic skating skills in her footwork, her edge quality, her control, there's less bobbing when she skates. I think that she has improved a lot of her second mark since switching her coaching team.
I think we'll see a bigger impact even next year as we see like the longer in terms that she's worked on it.
I do like how Plushenko seemed open to Kosternaya working with foreign choreographer like Shaylin Bourne. So I would like to hope that maybe Trusova is going to work with a top choreographer, perhaps outside of Russia, to be able to get the great choreography to match her great technical skills.
I hope she just keeps it, because it seemed like there was sometimes more of an emphasis on the choreography earlier in the season, and then she kind of took it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Like a constant tune-up.
Yeah, but hopefully we won't see that. What do you make of Rika? Because she really is, it seems like a very determined skater. She's been in Colorado Springs, training at altitude, working with Katerina Lindgren. What do you make of her chances to kind of spoil the Russian party at these World Championships?
Well, she has the technical content to do so, for sure. And I saw like her updated technical content for the free skate that she's going to be trying the quad sow and 2 triple axels. So, I mean, that could do it for her. I think that in the past, I've been underwhelmed with her programs. But it's the same for a lot of skaters at this stage and in the game right now. They're not that memorable. Sometimes it's almost like she's saving energy instead of giving and performing energy to the max at every moment of her program, which we see Kaori do so well, her teammate. I wish she had a little bit of Kaori spice. Rika, but her technical ability is very sound, and she has, the reputation to back up that as well. So I think going into these world championships, should she get the triple axel and, have a decent attempt at the quad, she could be in the mix with those girls.
Because I thought her quad attempt at Japanese nationals, I know that it was like a little suspect. The judges went with it, if I recall correctly.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty solid attempt. Yep. And if I recall correctly, she got her initial quad toe and sow in Colorado Springs, yes? So.
Well, she was training them there. Maybe she ran there, but I mean, you work on that at home too. So.
Yeah.
I do think that, I think that Rika's going to be between the Russians. I just have this feeling, but I don't know. Is it going to be Anna, Rika, Sasha, or will it be Sasha, Rika, Anna? Because I do think that Anna, until the last moment, we do not know how she is going to do. I saw a picture of her. She was very pale before they left, but then now she's training. It looks like maybe her hair is darker. You just don't know what the situation is going to be health-wise, but I do think that Terry puts everything in to pull out these championships. So
that's like what makes it so hard for me to feel like I'm rooting for somebody like her to win the title, because I want the winner to be a well-rounded person. I want the winner to enjoy the experience of winning and not feel like it was torture, and to thrive off of this, competition energy in a good way, and not feel like you're doing it because your coaches are maybe necessarily pushing you the way that it seems like Trusova and Tuktamysheva. They're really like the driving force of their careers, like them individually. There's just something sad to me about Anna's demeanor, if I can say that. I'm incredibly impressed with her quad flip and her quad lutz. She's a beautiful skater. She has beautiful posture. She's a great performer. I just find something sad.
Well, I always have really liked her inner performer and her inner artistry. Since we first saw her when she was young, she stood out to me as having more of a vulnerability than the other skaters. However, I will say that in the last year to year and a half, ever since she started putting in the quad lutz and would miss it on warm up, and then they would be the pressure to put it out before the competition, is that there is such a push in order to get her to perform under pressure that seems very stressful. It seems like this is the last big push of her career. I cannot see her being an Olympic gold medal contender with all of the stress and everything that's going on, and her growing. And it seems like the jumps are, they're gonna fall apart at any moment. So I just cannot see it another year lasting. So for her sake, I hope that she goes out and nails it. But then, I don't know. It's a big if. And look, ice is slippery, and even a Terry doesn't win every competition. So
I think at the end of the day, if I was going to bank on somebody skating a clean free skate between Trusova and her, I would probably go with Anna.
Yeah.
But I'm going to prefer to watch Trusova maybe have a messier free skate.
It's almost like if I think that if Anna wins, it'll take all of the energy from her career to pull it off, and she will be done in that moment. So I'm kind of hoping maybe that she does do it, and just the relief of this moment. But yeah, because I do feel for her that it feels like, because they've let the juniors compete in the seniors, it almost seems
messes me up.
It looks like we're having a child pageant of Annie, and that we're telling them that the orphans are going to replace them on stage at any moment, and we're already bringing the girls in the wings, and we're like, hi, this is going to be your replacement next season. I
just think in so many ways, emotionally and mentally, it's so unhealthy the way that they run things.
Look at how emotionally
for now it seems as if that's kind of escaped Trusova. Maybe it's just from the outside. I don't know her personally, but she really comes across to take things lightly and to want to keep improving herself. And it looks like she enjoys what she's doing. She's got energy and life to her. Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Do you guys, I sort of see in the top 6, 3 Japanese ladies and 3 Russian ladies. Now, it could be me hopeful, because I think Kaori, I love her, how fast she skates. And of course,
I love her.
the artistry of Satoko and this sort of stuff. I'm not quite sure where the North American ladies fit in here, but I sort of see in my own take that Japan and Russia sort of have this final group locked up.
Oh, like I would love for Kaori to win a medal. I love her skating, her energy. It's so infectious and she's so great and she commands the ice and she gives 110% commitment to every movement of her.
Yeah, but you like her because you're not one of those judges. She's going to slice open in that footwork sequence
maybe.
in the Matrix. Yeah.
But I love how ballsy she is. I don't like quite, I know that you love Satoko, but I don't quite know if she's going to find herself that high due to potential under rotations.
Yeah.
That will really be detrimental to her. And yeah, I don't know where the North Americans are going to end up whatsoever.
Yeah, I feel if they're able to break the top 6, they knock Satoko out.
Yeah, that would be the one that would be out for somebody like Bradie to come in.
So Satoko's been working with Yuka Sato for the last several months. I know that she was working with her during the Battle of the Blades period, and then once she went to nationals and she came back, she couldn't actually get back into Canada. And I know that she was working with Yuka for some time. I'd be curious who is with her at the Worlds, because if you are training with another,
Lee is going with her.
He's going. Okay. I mean, I don't know that. I think her skating will be beautiful. I don't know if she's going to rotate the jumps. I think the top 5 will be Russia, Japan.
Yeah.
And then I think it's a complete cluster mix between Yelim Kim.
It kind of drops off big time.
Yes.
After that as well. I think we'll see a big difference in scores.
Between like Bradie, Yelim, Karen, they all have like a lot to offer and a lot of detractions in their skating, right? So I think that the scores that Bradie got at nationals were outrageous. You know, I actually think Maddie Schizas could do pretty well if she skates a good short and can skate a good long. I think she's a freshness. She's newer to the Worlds. We haven't seen her a million times like some of the other skaters. So more of an advantage. I think outside of the Russians, I think Lona Hendricks could do pretty well. There isn't that much depth in Europe outside of Russia. So I don't know.
Not consistent skaters. You have, the girl for Switzerland, Alexa
Paganini. Oh yes, Alexia Paganini.
She can deliver.
I'm sorry, Alexia.
Decently reliable.
Yes, I think she will. Yes.
You have the I don't know which girl is going from Finland, but the Finnish girls are always very good, but they're just very inconsistent. But they can fit into that like 8th to 12th place spot, should they deliver decently.
There's a lot of respect from Karen Chen. That's why I could not believe that they sent it, other than the fact that Tammy works in Colorado and Karen trains in Colorado, and that's a big political advantage in the US.
Yeah, Megan, how would you have handled that? How would you have handled that with Amber?
I thought that they were going to send Amber for sure. I figured that they wouldn't go with Mariah because they would have had to skip too many people to get down to her.
Agree, yeah.
Although I do think that her and Bradie are the USA's best 2 girls over the past couple of years. Mariah didn't deliver at nationals, so she shouldn't be rewarded as if she did, no matter how much I like her skating. I probably would have gone with Amber just because I think her or Karen will place around the same place at Worlds. So why not reward the one that did better at nationals? I don't think either one of them would win a medal at Worlds. So, or place top 5. So why does it matter which one went?
Amber can rotate her jumps. She's been improving, and Karen's beautiful, but we've never seen the jump rotations from her. And
has she been improving? That's one of those skaters.
I don't
where
think
she's great, but she's as great as she was 6 years ago.
Well,
now.
Yeah, 6 years ago, but there was a big dip between
That's true.
those 6
So she's
years and
improved
now.
like since
She's improved from the dip. But what's interesting about someone like Karen for me is it does seem like international judges are more inclined to give her PCS, whereas I don't see them as inclined to have rewarded Amber with much PCS.
No, they're 2 very different skaters.
Yeah.
I do think Yelim Kim is my pick for 6th place. I don't know. I just think that she has that energy going into this competition. The only thing I worry about is maybe she's tired because Korea had 2 back-to-back competitions, but she was the most consistent, the most prepared, and has made so many athletic improvements in the size of her jumps and her overall confidence that I would I would think that she is certainly, I would put her ahead of Bradie Tunel. So
Don't you find when you're watching the Korean girls that you're just watching little replicas of Yuna Kim?
yes, 100%. And
Don't
especially
they want
with this
to learn a new
material.
style and be themselves? I have such a hard time finding them amazing because I'm like, well, they're just all the same.
well,
So I just wish that one of them would just break free. And
Well, it's interesting. Young Yu kind of started to make an individual name for her when she was having more success, I felt, with the triple axel last season. But when that sort of went awry, we kind of lost that. And as Dave and I mentioned, and because again, these back-to-back Korean competitions are brutal. I can't imagine doing that before a Worlds. But Yelim Kim, again, was almost a nondescript style.
yeah,
And now at least the generic lovely style they're going with is a style, which I felt just by coming up with a style sort of put
is
them
something.
in some set. Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
tell us
I
about
find them like, it's like, give me some energy, give me some life, give me some emotion, give me something that's not classical, overused. Just like they're just little replicas. And I don't know, I don't love it.
Well, and Sue had the originality, but she's not landing the jumps this season. She had the personality I was watching. But tell us about your weekend. I saw today that you're going to have all of the skating moms with like the holistic approach that you were talking about that you would like to see from the ladies. Tell us about what you have planned, because you've become a little Zumanista going on.
I know, and I didn't even like mean to, and it's kind of happened by accident. A year ago when everything closed down, a lot of coaches and skaters asked me to do some like workouts for them through Zoom, and it's just kind of grown. I work with a lot of clubs, I work with a lot of skaters every single day, at least 2 Zoom classes, usually every day, with many different types of skaters and people all over the world. And I love it. Like, I love the creativity of putting together new movements and like synchronizing things together. Like my classes are kind of like a fusion between Pilates and yoga and eccentrics, I guess I can say, a little bit of like strength training in there. And I love doing it. So in February, I did a 3-day Zoom seminar. And then I thought of it in January, and then I was kind of kicking myself. Like, I should have thought of this earlier. Like, this would have been great for the Canadian skating community who had nothing all year, like literally nothing, no opportunities given to them. So I was kind of like, I should have done this sooner. So I did it in February, and there was such a big interest. And like, I kind of like made it like an A-lister event. Like, I had Aliona, I had Caitlin Osmond, I had Caitlin Weaver, Brian Orser, Patrice Lauzon from IM Montreal. I had 2 Olympic judges, just like a lot of top, Jason Brown, like top credible skaters and coaches and stuff, doing workshops for 3 days. And I got a lot of really great feedback about that. So I wanted to do something similar, but not the same. I don't like ever to like repeat the exact same things. I wanted to like take that formula, but maybe tweak it a little bit. So throughout April, I'm going to be doing like Zoom seminar style classes every Sunday. We're going to have 4 classes every Sunday throughout April. And it's all based on like recovery and wellness. So we're going to be doing yoga. We're going to be doing eccentrics, cooking classes, mental training. There'll be skater discussion panels. Madeline, the Canadian skater going to Worlds, will be doing one of those. And then I decided to do a parent discussion night or day. So 2 of those Sundays throughout April will be parent discussion sessions. So one of them will be Kelly Rippon, one of them will be Mr. and Mrs. Chen, and my mom will join one of those groups as well. So I felt like it was something different, something to offer the parents. And I had reached out to Kelly Rippon, and then I was like, oh, like maybe the Chans would be a good angle and very different from Kelly Rippon and my mom in the way that they kind of like brought up their skating child. So our skating prodigy. So yeah, I'm kind of doing that, and the interest is pretty good, and I'm hoping that people like it. And I think that training through Zoom and doing online training over the last year has really opened a lot of doors. Where, I work with a lot of clubs all over Canada and the world, whereas these skaters wouldn't have the opportunity to work with me if it wasn't online, because they can't fly me in everywhere. Not everybody has those expenses. I did that seminar where I was able to bring coaches from Montreal, coaches from Toronto, Aliona from Germany, and Jason, and people from from all over the place joined from all over the world. Whereas if it was an in-person event, you wouldn't have this much variety.
I definitely think Zoom kind of opened up so many things with,
Yeah.
and it's the people who take advantage of that. Yeah.
I think like good things.
Yeah.
I wish that there was more, like I could think of so many really cool skating things that we could have done online, like an online virtual jump off, an online spin competition. I would have loved to see.
Have you seen that little Mexican boy? Or no, he's not from Mexico. He's from Spain.
Off the ice?
Yes.
Yes, I know.
Oh my goodness.
How do they do that? How do people jump off the ice? I can't even do a single axle off the ice.
So the amazing thing about him spinning off the ice is that there's like a hutch and it looks like there's like glass things and there's like a coffee table and he's just spinning and doing illusions. And
Like so fast.
And he roller skates and ice skates. And I'm like, oh my God.
So good.
Insane. Yeah.
So good.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I think that there's been so much that we can take from the skating world, from the way that we trained the last year. But like they're going back to what I was saying about things that I would have liked to have seen people organize in terms of virtual events, like an international virtual jump off. How fun would that have been? I would have loved to see an international virtual competition where people sent in their best training video. Not what they did in the moment, the best. So we sat back and we viewed 24 amazing men's long programs in a row, 24 amazing pairs long programs in a row, and just seeing what the judges would have done with it. Like how cool would that have been?
Literally everyone at their best.
Yes.
Re-record
you have the freedom to send in your best video. I actually researched a bit if I could run an online event and because I was like, why did nobody do this? This would be so cool. But you would need it to be sanctioned by like Skate Canada or the ISU, and it wasn't that easy.
We kind of should do it. That was called the US Virtual ISP, allegedly.
But like on an international scale, let's take it bigger.
Now for the novice, they got rid of that rule where they tried to do it in the moment, and everyone just like gets out the videotape and we just keep running it.
We used to have that for international competition selection in junior. When I was a junior skater, you had to send in a video of you doing your short and long program. So like as soon as you made a mistake, it was like, stop, we're restarting the video, or wear the same outfit like for 2 weeks in a row so you can splice videos. That's what we used to do. And Skate Canada didn't care.
The Roman program, when he spliced it from like 18 different angles, it was the greatest video.
When he debuted his free skate?
Yes. Yes, that was very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool.
Wow, I cannot wait for the Worlds. I'm getting very excited. This has gotten me pumped. I'm ready to go. Let's get this done. I cannot wait. So thank you so much for coming on, and we will see all of you for the World Championships. So hold it edge and look sexy. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.